Welcome, everyone. This is Mayor Steve Haggerty. We are back for another coronavirus Q&A session. I'm delighted today to have Monique Jones, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Evanston Community Foundation, with us. The foundation has been doing some tremendous, important work right after this pandemic. And so we're going to have a conversation today about some of that work and what they see the needs in the community to be. So welcome, Monique. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me, Mayor. I appreciate it.
So let's first talk about the COVID-19 response fund that the Community Foundation put together. And how did what was the genesis of that idea? How did it come to be? And just talk to our viewers about how we stood that up so quickly.
Very quickly. So we all got the news. Thank you for this opportunity. We got the news on mid-March that our governor was instituting a stay-at-home order, which meant the pandemic became real to us around the 16th of March. We quickly realized that the foundation was in the middle of a grant-making cycle, and the needs of our grantees were suddenly changing. So we put in a few calls to some awesome donors and then asked our board to pull from our own endowment, and we stood that fund up within a week. We launched it on March the 23rd and spread the word that we needed to raise dollars quickly so that we could get dollars out of the door quickly. And that has been a great success. Of course, you know that we went forward with $1 million match that we have officially met. And within 6 weeks, we have distributed close to $1 million from that fund to the organizations in Evanston doing the greatest work ever for the people who are impacted by COVID-19.
That is wonderful. And so if you think about it, I declared the local state of emergency on Sunday, March 15th.
Right.
And 8 days later, we had this fund created here in Evanston. And then one of the first things that you all did is you went out and surveyed the nonprofit communities to understand the needs. So can you talk to us just a little about that survey and what you found to be the critical essential needs?
We did. So the critical essential needs were the homeless population. So the critical essential needs were people who are already vulnerable, which is what our nonprofit community works for in the first place. So what we saw happen was our homeless shelter needing to close so that we could prevent the spread of coronavirus. What that means is we then had additional stressors to house people. So we gave large dollars to our organizations that are good at doing this, which is Connections for the Homeless, the YWCA, to help make sure our most vulnerable populations had roofs over their heads. And in that, we found out a good partnership with our area hotels. So that was the basic thing, the first basic thing. The other is that as people lose their jobs, and they lose their income, their ability to provide food for their families just decreases. So we partnered with a lot of our restaurants and chefs and anyone who was willing to do some cooking of some hot meals to make sure people still had food on the table. So the majority of those funds have gone to housing and food. And also there's an educational component to that. But those are immediate basic needs that we wanted to make sure our community had.
What has so impressed you about the Evanston community's response to this pandemic?
You know, if there is any time where something could be good when it's fast and furious, it is the Evanston response to community need. So the way that there was coalescing around the need, whether it was by communications on Facebook or donating to the fund and understanding and trusting the foundation to do the groundwork, building those partnerships with our nonprofit communities was just impressive. So to this fund alone, we've had over 250 new donors to the foundation. That to me means that where in areas that they probably didn't see greatly affected them before, this touched their heart. This touched their heart, and they are connected more with the nonprofit organizations because we don't hide, of course, who we grant dollars to, but it brought out a piece of people who may not have been philanthropists before and are now willing to do a little bit more, even in times when we don't have much to do a lot with.
Right, right. I'm so impressed with the foundation's ability to raise a ton of money really, really quickly. And all the people out in Evanston, including the 250 new people that weren't even affiliated with the foundation before, that have supported this. And I'm really impressed with your nimbleness and how quickly you put it together and how quickly you're distributing the money, because that's why people are giving you the money. And I think you've actually, it's been beneficial to our entire community to have one central, nonprofit like the Community Foundation that's always surveying the needs in the community, and to be able to have money go there and then have you all decide, how best to distribute this money. And you don't have all of those conditions that a government would have if the money were coming to us and we were distributing it. So I think that that's been really, really great. What do you think? I mean, this pandemic is far from over. I think it creates a lot of anxiety for some people. Is if we knew the end date, it'd be a little easier, but we don't know the end date. We worry about, is there going to be a second wave? We worry about whether we can continue to practice strict social distancing, particularly as it becomes physical distancing, where we can get out and be in smaller groups of up to 10 people, which, if the metrics hold, will be the case come June. But this is going to go on for a while. So what do you foresee as some of the challenges in the months ahead?
So the ambiguity is the challenge. So there's ambiguity in two ways: not knowing how long this is going to go on, and not knowing what our authority or jurisdiction is on solving this. So we have to deal with the hand that's given to us, with authorities coming from our Centers for Disease Control about how to manage this pandemic. We had nonprofit organizations who naturally are already working with the most vulnerable, who have become more vulnerable. And now we're trying to go back into workplaces and still serve a population in this space. So ambiguity is the leader of it all. And so when I walked into this, I asked my board to be flexible with the decisions that we needed to make. So they're a very nimble board. And then we let our grantees know that we wanted them to be flexible as well, with, as the needs come, we'll address them then. Let's not think about planning 6 months or a year out. We have to deal with what's right in front of us. So that's the biggest challenge of all. And then not knowing who can come back and work in the same way or in a better way that they were working before. So we don't know what will be missing when we go.
Can you talk to the viewers about all of the different working groups that you created in the community? So the background here is right after we declared a local state of emergency. As mayor, I set up a pandemic task force with leaders from all the different sectors here in Evanston, including the nonprofit sector, and asked you, Monique Parsons from the YMCA, Karen Singer, Betty from the YWCA, Betty Buggs from Connections, Dave Davis from Northwestern, and some others are all part of it. But I then asked all of you to set up working groups. And so can you talk to us about the working groups that you've set up within the nonprofit community?
There are about 9 of them. So as such would have it, yes, the nonprofit sector is huge. But when you get us all together, we do need to concentrate on the issue areas that we all work in. So I will call these out. There are about 9 of them. We have the seniors working group. We have a food insecurity team, as well as an immigrant services team. We now have a reopening group. So we have a group that's concentrating on what it will look like when we get back to the office, if we do. We also have an advocacy group that is concentrating on making sure that national and statewide policies actually support the work that we need to do. We also have a congregant living team that's different from our senior living group, as well as a K-8 summer learning team, and then an early childhood team. And all those teams are working, while they're working separately, we keep in touch weekly so that we understand what's happening in each sector and how some of the strengths in each group can cross over.
Right. How many different organizations, if you know, have you supported so far with that close to the $1 million that you've given out?
With the fund, we have given 40 grants. Some of those are double to organizations because we wanted to make sure that we didn't give a grant in the beginning that we couldn't support through the summer. So we made a grant for April and then a grant for May. So I would say that is about 35 different organizations. And to put that into perspective, Mayor, last year the foundation granted $1.5 million total to the Evanston community. In the last week, we've been able to grant just under, last 6 weeks, we've been able to grant just under $1 million. So that's pretty amazing.
Pretty awesome. And I know, the foundation's about 25 years old.
No, we're 33 years old.
33 years old. Oh my gosh. That means what I was going to say. It means the people that helped found the foundation are even older than I thought. They were even older. Sorry, everybody. Than I thought they were. But many of the people that were involved in starting the Evanston Community Foundation, I know must feel very, very proud of what that organization is doing now with this, pretty unprecedented, at least in the last 102 years since the 1918 influenza, to help their community. Let me ask you a couple more quick questions, and then we're going to wrap up. How can residents help?
So residents are actually already being very helpful. So we have had residents pull together their funds to donate to the fund, knowing that they would get matched. So there aren't enough things to give. But from starting the Facebook group to keep us apprised of what's happening, as well as emailing the foundation at the new email address that we created, which is er@evanstonforever.org, to let us know what's out there. I have someone emailing me every day about a resource or an asset that they have and asking us how to get it out to the community. And we're happy to filter those when you don't have any ideas. But residents should, this is coming from someone who does this every day, but don't get fatigued. Continue to be encouraged and continue to feel like you're being heard. And if you need assistance, continue to reach out as well.
Great advice. I think there's also a lot of different avenues for people to get involved here in Evanston, from volunteering with Interfaith Action or some of the food pantries, or getting involved with helping like a specific person through, back on their feet, Facebook website, which does a lot of direct connections, person to person or family to family, to, a much more sort of established, organized approach, which is the Evanston Community Foundation.
So I will have to pitch the Evanston Care Network then. So organizations, people, individuals can go online. If you have something to offer, you can go check out the evanstoncarenetwork.org website, where services are being offered for free or reduced. But if you have something to offer, you can put it there as well. So check that out.
Great. And so let's wrap up with, is there a silver lining to this incredibly difficult moment we're in? And if so, what do you think it is?
What I've been a social worker my whole life. But what I know for sure is when a crisis like this brings you closer together, some of the things I thought could never be solved are. So what I now know is people who have been hungry now know that they will not go unfed. And people who've been without homes now know that they can indeed have a home. And people who've been forgotten or overlooked are now seeing people that they trust and can confide in and can get services for. And that's the silver lining when we see each other as ourselves. And I think that's the great thing. Yeah,
well, we see everybody as essential, and maybe people didn't see everybody as essential. And now you hear the word essential, and it's not just, these super educated people who are doctors and scientists, but they're people that work at the grocery store and, picking up our garbage and all the other important jobs. So thank you so much, Monique, for your leadership and the leadership of everybody in the nonprofit sector. As the mayor, I preach that, our success with handling this pandemic is based on a whole of community response and recovery effort. It cannot be viewed that somehow, the nonprofit's going to save everybody, or the government's going to save everybody, or your church is going to save everybody. It's all of us, doing our part. And I am so proud of the nonprofit community and everybody in this city just for stepping up. So stay the course. I know it's not easy. Continue to practice strict social distancing. Wear a mask. Wash your hands properly. and regularly. If you're sick, don't leave your house. Self isolate, and we will get through this. So thank you for joining, and we will see you next time.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Have a good evening.
You too.